I really believe that everything in this life that happens to you is happening in service of you. Like it's happening for you, not to you. The more I put pressure on myself to be happy, the less I feel it. And so when you focus less on happiness as some sort of outcome and you relinquish this obsession with like, I need to be happy. If I do this, then it's going to make me happy. Like we kind of like mispredict what actually makes us happy. And so it's like, okay, we think we're going to make this choice because we think it's going to make us happy. Well, what happens if you make that choice and you're actually miserable? Like the reality is that you just never know.
And we're back with another episode of Triggered AF, the podcast. And we are just always so happy that we have the absolute privilege of getting on here and yapping our gums, and you guys actually listen. Right, Alechia? And we've been doing this for a long time. Are we in year 4, episode 100 and something?
We are definitely in year 4. We are at episode 176, I believe.
Isn't that incredible? Like that is so, and we both starting this said that we had issues with consistency. And look at us being consistent, honey. Okay.
Listen, I quit almost everything. I have quit a husband.
We are sticking it through because it is hard. I just want y'all to know it is hard to podcast and stay with it. Okay. It is at a very expensive hobby as you try to turn it into a business and do all the things. So thanks for rocking with me, sis, and for staying 10 toes all the way down as we pursue this journey to healing and finding ourselves. And today we're going to start with something that we've touched on here and there, but today we're going to do a deeper dive because y'all know we like to go real deep. And so grab your scuba gear because yes, we are pursuing life and liberty, but what does it actually mean to pursue happiness? What does that look like? It's not just a great movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. It's an actual mission and goal for so many of us, but we don't know what that looks like. So today we have a very special guest, the host of Everyday Endorphins, Stella Stephanopoulos.
Hey.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, welcome. Thank you for having us. We are so excited to talk to you about what it means to pursue happiness, about what that looks like, because that seems to be a part of your purpose is helping people tap into that joy and that happiness and what it means to live a life like that.
Absolutely. But now before we dive in though, we must initiate you. We don't haze, but we do initiate. Okay. So the one question that we ask every single one of our guests, and at this point we've had over 150 guests, and we've always had such different and unique answers. But the one question that we ask is outside of all of the titles and accolades and things that you do, who is it that you say you are?
I love that question because I think that we really like place our identity on our job or our relationship or whatever it is, fill in the blank, but we're so much more than just one identity. So that's why I love this question. I would say that outside of all the things that I do, like really what it boils down to is being a creative and living a life filled with creativity. And I think that manifests itself through my corporate job, through building a wellness brand and hosting my podcast, through teaching yoga, and the way that I show up for my friends. Like there's a lot of creative energy within me. And I think that that's really like the common denominator across all the different hats that I wear and things that I do.
So creative is definitely all encompassing, right? Because we're all creatives in one way or another, but to kind of be like, no, there's too many buckets, right? So let's just loop them into what it is, which is creative. I love that. So you host Everyday Endorphins, like I stated. What sparked your fascination with happiness and well-being and wellness on a day-to-day level? Where did that journey start for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're going to laugh because when I was, oh my God, like 9 years old, I got a Facebook account and this should have never happened. My parents did not want me to have a Facebook. This was also like 2008, 2009. This was right when it was, I'm pretty young, but anyways, I got a Facebook account, and at the time, the cool thing to do was change your name. And I changed my name to Happy Stephanopoulos. How cringe is that? Like,
Oh,
how
I
that is literally the
know.
weirdest thing ever. Like, you
Yeah.
think it's adorable. I think it's actually so psychotic and strange, but I made that my Facebook name. And this is answering your question in a very roundabout way, because the way I see that behavior as a child now is that at some point in my life, I was told that I was a happy kid. Maybe it was from my parents, my friends, people watching me. Like, there was just something about me that signified happiness, joy, whatever it was. And I didn't, as a kid, like, I don't think I knew, like, one way versus another what it actually meant to be happy. Maybe I was
yeah,
just very lucky and blessed to have a pretty good childhood, but
yeah,
I just always had this demeanor around of joy and happiness. And so
yeah.
it's funny because, like, this has always been very much part of my personality. But when I got to college and I developed deep friendships and relationships with people that were really struggling with anxiety, depression, OCD, anorexia, all the different types of mental illnesses and disorders you can think of, I recognize that, like, these problems in life don't really discriminate. Like, anyone at any point in life can go from feeling super joyous to struggling a lot with their mental health. And I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
developing close friendships with people who were really struggling. And I thought to myself, what makes that person any different from me and vice versa? And I'm witnessing friends of mine who are deeply struggling also have the ability to tap into a really big capacity for joy. So it really got me thinking, like, happiness is not this binary thing. It's not like we're happy or we're not. It's
Mhm.
deeper than just like that fleeting feeling. And so I think college was really the catalyst for deepening my understanding of, like, what happiness meant, and also making me reflect on myself. Am I actually a happy person? Why do I have this narrative in my head? Hence this 2009 Facebook name, to Happy Stephanopoulos. Why do I think I'm so quote unquote happy? Am I really? And so all these ideas were swirling in my brain. And my undergraduate major was in this study in philosophy, neuroscience, and psychology. So I took a class in positive psych one year, and it blew my mind around there being a whole area of research around discovering what it means to live a fulfilling life. And that really opened up my eyes to the whole field of research around happiness. And, I always cared about wellness just as a kid. I started practicing yoga probably around the same time I got a Facebook. So, like, 9 or 10 years old. And I
Listen, you are, hold on. You were the most determined, intentional 9-year-old I have ever heard of. And I love this for you.
thank you. I don't know where it came from, honestly. I really don't know, but that's just like what I was doing at 9 years old. And I loved yoga, and I did it with my mom. And in high school I was on a rowing team, so I started doing athletics. And I was never into sports before that. I never, my God, I have no hand-eye coordination. I don't want to do contact sports. Don't kick me, don't touch me. Rowing was perfect. I sit in the boat moves. So I did that for 4 years, and I developed this interest in, like, fitness and health. And at that time, I had actually started an Instagram called Everyday Endorphins. And it was a fitness blog. It was a rowing blog that I started in 2014, pre influencers, pre Instagram bloggers, now what we know to be content creators. But then it was for fun when I was a freshman in high school. So, really, to kind of round out this whole answer, because I know it's quite long winded, but the happiness stuff, I was always kind of thinking about. The wellness stuff, I really developed an interest in that through the different activities I was doing. And then I had also had some health struggles in college around hormonal imbalances, and just trying to figure out, like, how to create a healthy lifestyle with now not being a rower anymore, because I stopped doing that once I got to college. And so I was starting to get really deep into integrative medicine and functional medicine. So everything was kind of coming together all at once. And I think that really set the foundation for me to develop such a strong interest in the more, like, scientific perspective of happiness and health, but then also the more philosophical perspective as well.
Yeah, yeah. You said a really key point there when you were talking about things that were fleeting. is this really who I am, or is this just, the identity that I have adopted, be it good or bad, but still it's an identity that I've adopted, but does it actually resonate with me? And so one of the things that many people, and I'll speak for myself, let me not speak for the people, I'll speak for me in this one, have a difficult time distinguishing between, is this just something that's fleetingly pleasurable for me, or is this really aligned with what sustainable joy is for me? Like, what is that? What are some ways in which folks can, and there's nothing wrong with, having some fleeting pleasures. We've all had them, indulged a little bit. However, it doesn't always do anything to ensure that we're able to allow that joy to sustain, because many people will say, oh yeah, no, I'm happy, I'm smiling, I'm doing all the things. But when you look at the statistics, suicide rates are up, depression, anxiety, all of those are up. So something is happening where this math is not mathing, in that for so many people, for these Instagram accounts to look, fabulous, but for real life to feel so daunting and so heavy. How do you suggest, or what tools maybe can you give to folks to help them distinguish between fleeting pleasure and sustainable joy, so that they can determine which ones they should nurture?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I think there's not, to your point, like there's not a right or wrong way to do this. I think with the pleasure that's fleeting, like maybe the happiness in that moment that's fleeting, it can still be very valuable. Like I this morning made an iced coffee and it gave me a lot of joy. And of course it's fleeting because then I'm going to finish the drink and it's gone. And I think it's important to like indulge in pleasures in life, like to really savor the things that make us feel good. Sometimes that's an iced coffee, sometimes that's a salad, sometimes that's like a tub of ice cream. Like it really depends, right? Like it really depends on what you need in the moment. I think where things get nuanced and tricky is when we start to rely on things outside of ourselves to bring us a sense of joy, or we start to become overly dependent and attached to things that are completely outside of ourselves, whether it's people, places, experiences, food, alcohol, like anything. And so I think it's really about striking that balance between like leaning into what you need in a moment and giving yourself the permission and space to do that and to feel that, but to also recognize where self-restraint needs to come in order to set yourself up for more longevity around happiness and joy. And I do think that a lot of the times, like to your point, people think that maybe they're smiling and they're happy and life is good and whatever, yet suicide rates are super high. Like I reflect on this a lot with my friends, especially working in corporate America and having these jobs and working really hard and then hitting a plateau in their career and waking up and realizing, wait, like, am I even happy in the job that I'm in? Like, is this really what I want to be doing? And that's that reflection. It's not to say that the time that you put into that job isn't valuable. Like I'm sure there's skills that you learn, there's experience that you gain. It's all in service of something, but oftentimes we just live our life on autopilot. Like we just are so passive to the things that are happening that time goes so fast. You wake up one day and you're like, wait, am I feeling fulfilled? And I think that that's a question that we're all really struggling with.
Yeah, for sure.
No, it definitely is, especially when there's so many materialistic and surface level things to somewhat kind of placate us and make us think that we're okay. It's when you have to kind of sit with yourself. And I wanted to circle back to you talking about your college experience and some of the classes that you took in your undergrad. You explore both the science and human stories, especially on your podcast, around happiness. What has, or can you be a little bit more specific about what neuroscience and psychology taught you that completely shifted your perspective on happiness and joy? Because when you take these classes and you find out this information, you dive into the neuroscience, you're like, oh my God, this is not just like a hunch, right? Like this is not just a theory. There's real research and data to back up a lot of the things that we're discovering in this century around how the brain works, how the mind works, how your hormones are affected. That just like was not even on the radar. So what has that done for you and what has it taught you?
Yeah, I think what I loved the most about my major was that I was really addressing this question around like, how do we live a purposeful, good life from a bottom up perspective where you're looking at it from let's say, the neuroscience perspective, and you're looking at things at the cellular level and understanding really the science and the chemicals, like what's going on in your brain. But then you can look at it from a top down perspective, from the philosophy part of that major, that's addressing these big, deep existential questions. And then the psychological theories can aim to address that. And then it's like the neuroscience is the quote unquote evidence that's supporting the psychological claims. So I just thought it was a fascinating study. But a few things that stood out to me. The first was just this, you know, reality of neuroplasticity. Like our brains are plastic. And so that means that our brains are really adaptable. And I think when we understand that our brains are adaptable and that when we understand the way that like synapses fire and the way that neurons communicate to each other, it actually gives you more agency because you realize that you like our brains are incredibly powerful because they change and they're malleable. So I think that's like the first thing that I took away from some of my cognitive neuroscience studies. The second, and I can't remember the name of this study, I might butcher it, but the premise was that um, the it was a study that basically showed like evidence to the power of visualization. And I think the nature of this study was that there were these like taxi drivers in London who were participants, and they did brain scans of these taxi drivers, and like the neurons were firing in their brain in a similar like layout and map of the London city center, whereas just like regular people, maybe they were the control group, they when they were told to think about the city center, the brain like patterns and the firing of the neurons were not mapped in the way that the city center was laid out. So the whole premise of this study, and I'm probably butchering it, but what I took away from this is like um there's just a lot of power in visualization. And so like your brain actually, if you think positive thoughts, or if you like, let's say you're an athlete and you're envisioning yourself like shooting that shot, or beating your PR or whatever it is, if you actually like try to see it in your mind, it creates that same pattern in your brain, and you're more likely to achieve the things that you visualize. And I think that ties a lot into manifestation, which is why um, it's not really this woo-woo concept. Like there's a lot of science that backs it. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing I'll land with here is more around psychology, and um, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is actually rooted in this phenomena, which is really about how our thoughts and our feelings like will dictate our belief system, and what we choose to believe is true or not is what will dictate our actions, and then our actions, dictate our reality. So if you work backwards, it all comes back to your brain and the power of your mind and what you choose to think and believe. And so through certain therapeutic modalities, you can learn how to retrain the brain and engage in more positive self-talk to create a better reality for you. And I think it's all really empowering, honestly. Like I really think it's just fascinating.
Hey driver, you're not a part of the community yet? Being in community is the game changer and the cheat code.
And this is more than just a membership. It's your growth circle, accountability hub, and safe space for navigating the messy yet beautiful work of becoming your best self.
And not only will you get exclusive tools, live access, and the support designed to help you transform your triggers, but you'll also get the tools that you need to build new habits that help you to lead with clarity, confidence, and joy.
Time to create lives that feel as good as they look. See you soon, Thrive Tribe. Visit justthrivenow.com. Yeah, it's just like we're not damned or condemned to our traumas and our childhood. And there have been wonderfully, I think, so much rhetoric and talk around our traumas and the things that we've gone through and how they shape and mold us. But oh my God, isn't there hope when there are other ways to look at things, and there's that the brain is malleable and that there are options to change it, and that it is constantly evolving as we are, and we don't have to be so restricted to the things that we were taught before, or like I said, like we feel like this is just our lot. This is because so much of change is stumped when you feel like there isn't any hope for anything to be different. If you just feel like, oh, this is how I am, this is how my mother is, this is how my family is, this is just what it is for people like me or for people like that, to just literally open your mind to other possibilities can literally change the trajectory of your life, as opposed to being so beholden to your past.
Yes, I'm a firm believer you are not beholden to the stories that others told you about yourself.
Yeah.
So I, of course, was, I was raised in poverty, and I love my auntie. Like, she is one of the most hilarious people I've ever met. But I remember her saying when I was 8 years old, we were born poor, we gonna live poor, we gonna die poor. And even at 8, I said, I don't think that's gonna work for me. I didn't say it out loud because, back in the day, you get knocked out if you, get too fast, too flip, as they called it. I didn't say it out loud, but I had decided then that day that that didn't work for me. And I wasn't going to simply accept that. And I didn't have to accept it because I could decide something different. I'm currently reading this book called Parallel Universes of Self. And oh my God, it is hands down the best book I have ever read. Oh my God. It's deep though. So if you haven't done any like healing work or anything like that, then y'all don't tap into that book just yet, 'cause it's going to terrify you. However, if you have done any sort of healing work, or just understanding of how visualization and how you can literally transform your life with a simple decision of what it will now be, because you are not beholden to any story or any identity, you can literally change and decide that no, this is the timeline that I'm going to jump on and be a part of. And this is what my life's experience will be. In spite of what you see, it changes things. And you talked a lot about the synapses firing, and the neurons, and what it's happening in your brain. And that, literally understanding how that work, it can really help people reframe difficult situations. It can be a, I'm so bad, clearly I choose so terribly, I had this really rough, terrible relationship. Or it can be the things that I learned in this relationship have and will continue to help me to ensure that I choose better next time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Both are true, but you get to decide which one is more applicable to you. So, how would you suggest, especially with a lot of the study that you've done, how would you suggest people reframe those difficult emotions like anger, grief, and even anxiety, so that they're not blocking out the joy? Like, you're not even giving the synapses to fire off because you've already blocked it. But how can
Mhm.
you help, or what are some ways in which you suggest folks can reframe it so that they can actually deepen that joy versus block it out?
Yeah. It's it's a great question. For me, something that has been really transformative is, a piece of advice that my friend shared to me when I was struggling a bit a few years ago. Just it was a hard time in my life, and I was going through kind of like a spiritual awakening. Like, that's the best way to put it. And I had started going to therapy, and I was diving into just like a lot of stuff I didn't even realize had been bothering me for many years. And it was very overwhelming to have that kind of conversation every single week with my therapist, and do that type of work. And I remember confiding in a close friend of mine who was very spiritual and sharing some things that were on my mind. And she said, I really believe that everything in this life that happens to you is happening in service of you. Like, it's happening for you, not to you. And that statement changed my mindset. It is something I come back to now when things can get tough sometimes, or if I just need to hear something that's really affirming. I always come back to that thing that she said. Like, whatever's happening right now, it's for you. Right now I'm going through some transitions in my job and with certain friendships and just within my personal life. And instead of getting so anxious about it and feeling like, oh, this sucks, I feel lost, I don't know what's going on, I'm just telling myself, Stella, like, this is all for you. Like, it's only setting you up for the next chapter of your life. And it's going to be uncomfortable because you just don't know what the outcome is yet, but you'll get there. So, like, it's okay to feel anxious and confused and a little lost, because you're not alone in that, number one. And number two, like, you need these feelings are like the necessary evil in a way. It's the prerequisite for change to happen in your life. And so when you start to kind of get excited by it, it's not as scary to like face those fears or those challenges or those negative emotions. So I really do believe when you reframe anger, grief, sadness, frustration as A, these are natural human responses. Like I should feel the emotion, not become it. But B, this is in service of me. It is, you don't let those emotions like take power over you.
Yeah, no, and I love, you saying that, like, you can feel the emotions, don't become them, because so often we just identify so strongly with an emotion that we literally say, like, I have anxiety, I have this
Mm.
thing, I own this thing, I am this way, I'm always depressed. Like, we start to feel like that becomes a part of our personality, because if you do feel a way long enough and you're acting on those emotions long enough and you're holding on long enough, it literally becomes a part of who you are, to the
Yeah.
point where, like, your smile, like, I don't know if you've ever seen people where, like, the corners of their mouth dip down from just, like,
Mm.
kind of it being in a frown, kind of saddened state forever, where your
Mm.
body will start to, like, physiologically change to kind of match the emotions that you're
Yeah.
constantly kind of cycling through. So
Mhm.
I like the idea of kind of just separating yourself a little bit from the emotions, honoring them, of course, but just kind of learning how to release them. I learned that so much from having children. They just, like, cycle on through emotions. They don't have time to sit there and be mad for 3 days. They're like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
really angry now. I'm gonna scream, I'm gonna cry, I'm gonna kick. And then, like, let's go watch TV. Like, let's go outside. Let's hug. I'm sorry. Are you still mad at that? Like, I'm past that.
Yeah.
And I really try to absorb that from
Hmm.
watching my children, just kind of not really sit in things, because children just are so present. They just get it.
Hmm.
They're like, oh no, we're done with that. I expressed that. I'm moving on. Like, I honored it. I'm done with it. Next.
That's such a good reflection. Like kids just do this so well. They
They
don't
do.
linger in their emotions. And if they feel a certain
Mm-mm.
way, they just express it. And I think as we get older and become adults, like we associate consequence with just speaking our mind. And it's something I'm
Yeah.
working on is like, if I feel a certain way, expressing it and vocalizing it, because then you actually like take away its power by addressing it. Like a lot of times people want to put things under the rug or not address how they feel about certain things because they think that if they bury it away, it just goes away. And maybe for some time it does, but this goes back to our initial point and question around immediate pleasure versus sustainable joy. Maybe it's providing you immediate relief, but it's going to come right back at you. So the more courageous thing and the thing that's actually in service of you is to just like nip it in the bud, address it, be honest about how you feel, and move on. Like, and it's the most powerful thing you can do, I think.
Just keeps me and Alicia are always like, just keep swimming, just
Yeah.
keep
Swimming,
swimming.
swimming.
Because that is, we talk a lot about learning to swim to shore faster is what healing
Mhm.
is. It's not about never getting thrown out into the ocean. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about drowning. It's about, like, how do I kind of get back to shore faster every time I am kind of thrown for a loop. And you
Yeah.
talked about doing yoga since you were 9, and just being interested in happiness and wellness. What are some practices or rituals that have become non-negotiables in your personal joy,
Mm.
happiness toolkit? Like, obviously the yoga is still there, and you talked about, just having the perspective of this is happening for me. But what are some other things that you do that are effective and other people can implement to kind of always just
Mhm.
have handy?
Yeah, I think for me, so these practices kind of will shift depending on different states in my life. So there was a time, for example, where I was really into running and I was part of this run club that would meet every Tuesday night in Brooklyn. And like that for me was a very consistent endorphin boost, like routine that just made me feel really good. Now I'm like not as into running. I'm like doing other things to stay fit, and I've been also like upping my teaching reps. And so for me, like teaching at different yoga studios at Equinox and Core Power, like even if I'm having a horrible day and I'm like dreading having to teach because it's another responsibility, I know the minute I do it, I genuinely feel great. So for me right now, it's like I've been teaching a lot, which it makes me feel more joyful. Um, I've also been really trying to lean into more solo time. And it's
Mhm.
funny because I used to operate on the complete end of the spectrum. Like anyone who knows me personally very well knows that like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and parts of Sunday booked.
Oh,
Friends, things, like
mm.
plans, just so much going on. And yes, New York
I
is a
would
busy city.
cry.
Yeah, but like I thrived on that for years. And like
I
that's
love
how I wanted my social calendar to be like. And now I'm like, Jesus, like one plan a weekend. Like, and I never thought I would
Yes.
say this before, really. But like the taking away that scheduled time for me, it's now like an time adding into my routine for me, and like
Mhm.
developing a friendship with myself and doing things alone, like putting myself out of my comfort zone. And so that's been like a big theme recently, is like really embracing the solo time, actively creating more space for myself and time alone, and getting really focused on creating and building. I
Yeah.
think that is what really energizes me and lights me up.
Ooh, see that Monday through Sunday type of energy. Oh my goodness, I would definitely cry real tears because oh god, I am definitely more along the lines of where you are now, in that I must have solo time. If I don't have time to myself to like regroup, to bring myself back to myself, I will be the meanest person ever. Not because I want to be mean, but because I am empty, depleted. And so, even recognizing that and being okay with that, because there can be a level of grief there for some folks, simply because they're like, well, I can't post on social media that I'm out with the girls, or I'm having a drink with the guys, or I'm having fun and I'm living my life, because if you don't post it on Instagram, did it really happen? If it's not on Tickety Talk, I don't know, did you really have a good time? And so I would love to know what you believe in terms of how do you think culture and social media have reshaped our perception of what happiness should look like.
Hmm. Well, social media, I really have a love hate relationship with it, as I'm sure most people do. Because
Yeah.
there's the one hand where it's kind of like that necessary evil for building a business and a brand.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, it's like, um, you know, uh, I've built some amazing friendships through meeting online, and
Yeah.
like that's how my event in Amsterdam came together, an internet friend. And so there's like a lot of beauty that comes with social media,
Mm-hmm.
but it fundamentally, I think, does make us feel more isolated too. Like we're addicted to our phones.
Yeah.
We've lost the art of connection, of making conversation, of approaching strangers, of just talking to people. We are using Instagram and then like using it as a measure of our success, comparing ourselves to other people. Like you said earlier, everything online is half the story. I posted a slideshow of pictures like a year or two ago, for World Mental Health Day, and the photos were me smiling, looking good, and doing things. But in the caption, I was like, in that photo, I was actually really upset. In that photo, I was like dealing with this thing. And it's like the picture only tells a very like
Yeah.
partial story of what's going on in your life, right? So
Yeah.
I really do think that social media has negatively impacted a lot of the way that we deem happiness, largely rooted in this comparison mindset. But I really do love there like some really brilliant professors and thought leaders like Jonathan Haidt and Arthur Brooks, um, and Scott Galloway, who talk a lot about this, and that's the content that I follow. So now when I'm scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, I'm looking at their videos, like it's educational. And I would hope more people engage with the platform in that way, because if you're trying to learn something valuable, I think it can actually be a really useful tool in your life. But I think that social media, it's difficult. And then as far as like culture, I would say that at least in modern day society in America, we really place an overemphasis on like achievement and how that relates to our happiness. And so we're obsessed with this idea of achieving and being successful as a means to an end to become happy. And I have felt this so deeply, and it's actually caused a lot of unhappiness for me because I've been chasing this unrealistic expectation of happiness and success in my life. And when I noticed that, I had to do an audit and like backtrack and be like, wait, why are you so like success hungry? What does that even mean? Why are you so focused on achieving and like getting recognition and approval? Just like, why is that the basis for your happiness? And those were the questions going on in my mind. And I don't want to be victim to that. Like, I don't want to engage with ambition from an unhealthy perspective. So I do think, though, that like the culture around us, especially living in a place like New York where everyone's working a finance job or a consulting job or whatever, like I'm in it, and I don't want to just be tied to these things outside of myself to give me a sense of fulfillment and happiness. It can contribute to it, but that shouldn't be the measure of success and of joy in life. So there's a lot of elements, I think, to how social media and like our culture today negatively impacts our perception of what it means to be happy.
Yeah. But it's like you said, there is a way to kind of curate your algorithm in a way that it can
Mhm.
add to it, which I learned a couple years ago. It was just like, yeah, I don't want to see this. Like, I don't want to follow this. I don't want to like watch this thing that I feel like I have to constantly compare myself to. Like, I've definitely curated my timelines to be
Mhm.
very informative and very educational, even so much so that it's just like, okay, this is overload sometimes, the stuff that I'm like, oh my god, look at this, oh my god, this is so interesting, oh my god, oh my god. So I agree that it can be very detrimental, but it is a tool, to your
Mhm.
point, if you use it appropriately so that it's not using you. And we want to make sure that we're being just mindful of the things that we consume on an everyday basis, whether it's social media, whether it's your food, whether it's your friends.
Mhm.
Like you said, having that solo time now means so much more. And oh my God, girl, if you ever want to have children, that solo time is going to be gold.
Yeah.
Or if you just ever want to be in a very serious relationship, like long term, the longer you're with them, it's like, oh, I need a second. Okay. I need a
The
moment
moment.
to my damn self so that I can just recuperate. For me, prior to marriage and children and things like that, I was like, I'm very like, I need a second. Like I always, like I was living by
Mm.
myself and I have a very busy social calendar, but I really like to just, I need a second to kind of decompress and like
Mhm.
take a moment to just kind of reassess my day. I'm like a very deep thinker. I'm always in my feelings. I'm a Cancer. So I'm like, I'm in all the feels all the time. And to have that stripped from me very quickly through motherhood and marriage has been such a journey to kind of reclaim that time, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 2 minutes. So I always have solo time in my toolkit.
Mhm.
And I know Alicia, as an extrovert, always does as well because she needs that time.
Introvert.
As an introvert, she's an
Yes.
ambivert, but introvert. She likes to claim to be an introvert.
An
Um,
extroverted introvert, I guess.
yeah, it's just like you're too busy to be an introvert, girl. But because I know she needs that time to replenish, I know when she like comes off of a big trip, like I kind of
Mm.
give her space, So also just surrounding yourself with people who kind of understand and want you to be healthy, so they are going to contribute to
Mhm.
that wealth. But we want to. I'm saying all that to say it's important to find some tangible ways so that you can shift from pursuing happiness. So, what would you say are some real
Mm.
like walk away with this, apply it now? Like, what are some real tangible ways people can shift from pursuing happiness externally, like we've been talking about, to cultivating that joy internally, where no matter what's happening,
Mhm.
your baseline is still joy?
Yeah. I think that it actually comes from not being so obsessed with pursuing happiness. And maybe that sounds
Mm.
ironic because my whole brand is about finding things that bring you joy,
Yeah.
but like the more I put pressure on myself to be happy, the less I
Mhm.
feel it. And so when
Yeah.
you focus less on happiness as some sort of outcome and you relinquish this obsession with like I need to be happy. If I do this, then it's gonna make me happy. Like we kind of like mispredict um what actually makes us happy. And so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, okay, we think we're gonna make this choice because we think it's gonna make us happy. Well, what happens if you make that choice and you're actually miserable? Like the reality
Mm.
is that you just never know. And
You
so
never know.
you
You never
don't like
know.
um life can take you any which way. Any path is
Mhm.
possible. And
Yeah.
the best you can do is just enjoy where you're at right now. And I think that that comes back to practicing gratitude and actively calling things to mind that you like are so grateful for. Like it's a privilege to sit here and to have this conversation, like how cool is that? I'm grateful for that. It's a privilege that we met at Cannes and to have the opportunity to go there and to be involved in that atmosphere. How
Mhm.
awesome is that? Like, and so when maybe I'm in my head about oh, this is bothering me, or oh, should I do this, or oh, I feel so lost. If I linger in that headspace for too long, then I start to feel bad about myself and
Mhm.
wishful to be in a different place. And it's like that takes me out of the present. And so I have to bring back to the things that I know are true that I'm really grateful for. A roof
Yeah.
over my head, like friends, loving parents, the fact that it's sunny right now in New York, like the just really small things that
Yes.
bring me
Yeah.
back to that presence and create like a joyful internal state.
Yeah. So basically, if you're on the pursuit of happiness, usually you're going to miss it because what you think will make you happy, you may find out that, I don't even like this
Mhm.
actually. Like, this
Yeah.
doesn't even align for me. However, if you can center your gratitude in
Mm.
the things that are happening for you, not to you, you're able to experience something different.
Thank you so much, Stella, for sharing your knowledge and your research and your studies with us. And we really appreciate, you taking the time, and we are grateful as well to be able just to have these conversations and to have them in a way that people can really do something with it. A lot of times, sometimes things are just so like high level, and people leave these conversations like, huh? I really feel like we're able to kind of bring it down to earth for everybody. So thank you so much. So where can people stay connected with you? Where can they listen to your podcast? How do we stay in touch?
Yeah. So the best way to find the show is just type in Everyday Endorphins on Spotify, Apple, literally wherever. That's where you can listen. But I'm also on Instagram. It's also Everyday Endorphins, and TikTok, which is the same name, Everyday Endorphins. And Instagram is where I post about my interviews and events that I'm doing, partnerships. TikTok is really my stream of consciousness and general learnings in my life and my own perspective on topics in the wellness space. So definitely like go check out all different platforms because you'll get a little bit of the different parts of my personality and the ways that I'm building this brand. And then if you want to just get in touch with me, Stella Stephanopoulos is my Instagram. So you can find me there as well.
And you can stay connected with me at the Dani Bourdeau on Instagram. You can also stay connected with Triggered at Triggered AFPC, as well as triggeredafpodcast.com.
And you can absolutely find me everywhere at Alechia Reese, spelled Alechia, last name Reese, Reese.
And also, don't forget to go to justthrive.now.com if you would like to stay informed in our community when we're coming to you, when we're doing our live podcast recordings in a city near you, events, mixers, all the things. So definitely go to justthrive.now.com as well. Share this episode with your friends, your family members, anyone who could just use a little bit more joy in their life to take them through this journey. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.